All right, welcome back to another brand new edition of the player. And now I have something. It's not a player. I have actually have a coach, a former coach, and now a principal with me today that I'm going to introduce you to a second. But let's go ahead and pay the bills. Every single one of my interviews are brought to you by the Carolina Law Group, who serves justice with integrity. Get your free consultation today by visiting www.thecarolinalawgroup.com and feel free to chat in with us at the Hagler's Transport Service chat room. Today, I have with me two women I have been admiring from afar. I definitely love this school. The school has took me in. This is actually one of the first schools that ever let me cover them when I started sports and culture sports media. So I would like to welcome two special ladies today, Principal Cheryl Smith and National Champion Coach Latrice Davis. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank
Thank you
you
for
for
having
having
us.
us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can get a better. There we go. Everything's even here. How you ladies doing on this Sunday? First off,
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having us on.
Doing good. Yes, thank you.
oh my pleasure. So just I'm gonna start everything off with a question for you both, and we can start with you, Principal Smith.
Okay.
Going back to your coaching career, like what made you get into coaching?
Wow. So I became interested in coaching prior to graduating from college. I started coaching an AAU team in the Seneca area. So it was Seneca and West Oak players combined on the team together. And for me, just like any other athlete, once you start to reach that time of graduating, there's a certain feel that playing gives for you. That feeling you get when you get an and one, that feeling when you get a block. There's no other way to get that close to that feeling other than coaching. So that was one thing, and then for two, just being able to pour back into kids the way that my other coaches poured into me.
Absolutely. And what about you, Coach Davis?
So I got into coaching because actually Principal Smith, I got my first coaching job up under her at Hillcrest High School. So I was no longer, I did about 2 years college ball, and it was a way for me to stay connected. There's a lot of passion still there. So although I wanted to still play, it just wasn't happening for me. So I got into coaching that way. And like I said, just the love and passion for the game. And like she said, so many had poured into me. So I definitely wanted to be able to do the same as well.
Absolutely. And Principal Smith, I know you were assisted at one point at Furman and also coach at Southern Wesleyan. What are some of the differences between being an assistant coach and a head coach?
Well, definitely when you're in the head coach, you sit in that seat where all the decisions, the final decisions come from you. The responsibility, the accountability of the how the team progresses is really your responsibility. And at the end of the day, it lives and die off of your name, your position. So you accept all responsibility for anything that happens. Um, from being an assistant, there is a lot of accountability there, but you are there to assist the head coach. Whatever the philosophy and vision and mission is for the head coach, as an assistant, you're there to make sure that that's fulfilled.
And Coach Davis, what are some of the things that you kind of look for in an assistant coach?
Um, like you said, someone that's going to be there to assist you in whatever you need, doing the things like you, especially if it's game day, you're getting ready, you're prepping, you're thinking about the game, and my assistants, they help out a lot with making sure that everything's set up, those type of things, making sure that players are doing what they need to be, the warm ups and those things. So if we can just worry about the game and the game plan, and then your assistants are there to do just that, assist.
Absolutely. And going back to Ms. Smith, I know I asked Coach Carson, who's a friend of mine over there at Furman, is there any type of extra pressure or needed to be successful when you're coaching your alma mater? You coached at both. What do you think about it?
Right. So oftentimes the success that you had as a player most people would think that that aligns to the success that you have as a coach. And it's two different things. You are definitely in control as a player and a coach, but as a player, you're out there on the court and can affect the game a little bit better. As a coach, you're having to direct those things and give out instructions that you hope will play out. And then I would say, just whenever you're coming from your alma mater, that is your, from my high school, that was my hometown. So I had some people who I went to school maybe with their parents that now I am, serving as a coach, or we're in the same school together. You're most of the time the people that you go to church with, they're involved. So it is a lot more pressure, definitely, versus all the places that I've been. But on the flip side, there's a lot of support there as well. So,
Absolutely. And this is going back to both of you guys. I know every time I go on the school's website, Legacy website, it is one of the most professional looking websites probably in the upstate. Extremely crisp. Looks like it's something that fresh off of Microsoft. Um, what do you believe separates Legacy from other schools here in the upstate? We can start with you, Coach.
Oh, so for me, I feel like it's a family atmosphere, um, the culture as well. I think that separates it. Um, and then there's a high priority on being college ready, college and career ready. And I think that's a huge separation than the other schools, public schools in Greenville.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Principal?
well, this is, I think, fifth high school I've been a part of. And so Coach Davis said something very key. She said the culture. The culture is one of empowerment and support and inclusion. And, our mission is for all of our scholars to go to college. And we provide all the resources to make sure that that happens. A lot of our scholars are the first in their family to go to college. And so sometimes we may be that driving force that can tell them every step as to how to get there. And then the inclusion piece is we have partnerships with North Greenville, Greenville Tech, and Southern Westland, where our scholars are able to take college courses for free. We transport them there. We pay for the books. And that's where the inclusion piece come in. That is something that we desire for all of our scholars. In some high schools where I've been, it's only afforded to some of your top students, or only certain students by a probably hidden criteria.
Hmm.
But that is something that we desire for all of our scholars. So that is something that I feel like sets them apart. And then a second part is not just the college courses, but the other piece that's very important to scholarship money is the ACT. And so we bring in an expert to do a 6-week boot camp leading up to the ACT. And we find that our scholars are improving their composite score 4 to 5 points, which is huge. We have a senior this year that took it as a sophomore and made it 22. And in the last 2 years, working with that expert, and of course the rigor of our courses, he landed with a 33 for his final score, and the
Wow.
36 is perfect. So I feel like that really sets us apart.
And if there's other schools that's probably watching this interview today, which I know they are, how can they get into a program like that to improve the students across Greenville County?
How can other schools get into the program
Yes, like
in terms of like improving the ACT?
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so I think that you have to do kind of a, what we did is we looked at the data and did a deep dive as to why our scholars were not hitting the mark on the ACT, and so we just sought out um, the expert to come in and work in that area. So I think it really goes back to looking at your data and seeing what's keeping the scholars from getting like 21 deemed years college ready. Is it math? Is it reading? Is it the science part? So really diving into that and then going out and getting the resources that you need according to your data.
Absolutely. And I kind of always wanted to ask a principal this. As the principal of Legacy, like, can you walk us through what a typical day is like for you?
Oh, absolutely. So our scholars, usually our doors are open at 7:30. And so our cafeteria is open for breakfast, and breakfast is free to all of our scholars. and around 8 o'clock they'll come on the hallways and expect to get to their classes by 8:05. And this first block, that's a 90-minute period. And then second block, which is 90-minute period, go to third block. And then we have 2 lunch shifts. So the first group of scholars will go to lunch and then come back to their third period. And the second group will go. And the class itself is 90 minutes. And then you go to fourth block, which is 90 minutes. And at the very end of the day, we have what we call advisory, which is very different than any place that I've been. And during advisory time, every day kind of has something different that you're doing. One day maybe ACT, SAT for our seniors. Another day maybe working on scholarships, walking them through FAFSA forms. And then another day is read something of your choice. Then on Thursdays, we have kind of a curriculum that we go over with soft skills. And we partner with the Urban League as well. So they come in and do Project Ready. And then like on Friday, it's kind of teacher's choice for whatever they want to choose. So an opportunity to kind of dive into the college stuff, the soft skills, and then just kind of life skills as well. We talked about like changing a tire, how to tie a tie, those type things that, you know, sometimes you may get to college and haven't experienced that.
Yeah, no,
So,
I would have loved if my high school had that capability. Definitely would have been
right.
set up a little bit better. And kind of a question for you both. And before we get into the basketball portion of the interview, we had a very unfortunate situation happen at Tanglewood Middle School, which was the middle school I attended.
Mm-hmm.
As faculty members, and we'll start with you, Coach. Like, where were you when you heard the news, and what went through your mind?
So I was in class. I think it was our fourth block class when I heard. So that's the end of the day for us, almost the end of the day. And I got a text about someone saying, "Hey, you know what's going on at Tanglewood?" And obviously I didn't know. It wasn't until school was over, my son, I meet him right after school because he attends Legacy, the middle school. So he came up and he knew about it and he was asking me questions. And that's when I realized like something had happened and I began to look into it. And my heart just went out to him and I immediately prayed for the students and the staff and everyone involved.
Yeah. What about you, Miss Smith?
So I found out a little earlier. We were actually in a principal's meeting, and one of the principals received a text from one of their teachers because they have a scholar that attends Tanglewood. And so you can imagine, you know, the feeling that that parent had at that moment to have a child there. And at that time, it was very little information except for that there was an active shooter on campus. After that, I received another text from a friend of a teacher that works there, you know, saying, you know, to pray for that teacher. And that teacher, you know, was letting her family know that she was okay, but was saying how scared the kids were because they came in with automatic rifles. And so at that point, my first thing was thinking that we may possibly go into a lockdown because sometimes regarding the proximity that you're in to the school where it's happening, you know, just for safety measures, you may go into a lockdown as well. So was preparing my mind for that. But at the same time, just as the day played out, just knowing that there's nothing that Tanglewood did wrong, that can happen to any one of us. And it just makes me always think about the importance of those drills and just from day to day, you just never know what's going to happen, but you always have to be as ready as you can be, unfortunately, to be prepared in that situation. So.
Yeah, and then kind of a follow up question with that. I know growing up for me, we never had any type of active shooter drills. We had the
Mm-hmm.
regular tornado drills where you go in the hallway and put your book over your head, but
Mhm.
never anything about active shooter. Um, how often, since all these situations has happened, how often do you guys practice those drills?
Well, typically that is something that you do at least twice a year. I will say COVID made it very different. COVID made drills in general different, you know, because obviously when you're practicing these drills, you're close together, and so when we're having to be 6 feet apart, or when you were
Yeah.
virtual, I mean, obviously when we reverse, you didn't have to think about it, but it also gets you away from practicing the way that you should as well. But typically, at least twice a year.
Yeah, I didn't think about that at all. You're right. With COVID, it took away some extremely important things from school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and coach, with yourself, just staying on the topic of COVID, how difficult was it when COVID first hit to just navigate throughout the season?
Yeah, probably the most difficult, I guess, situation that I've dealt with in my principalship, because most everything that happens within the school is not new. So when you go into your educational programs, um, they prepare you for that. You have assignments on that. You have to experience those things in your internship. But COVID was something totally new. There was no class, there was no preparation, and it was something that you just had to kind of move as you go, and then really flip everything to virtual. For us, all of our scholars did have access to Chromebooks, and there are a lot of virtual platforms that we're on anyway. So that made it a little smoother, but it was definitely tough. It was definitely tough. I mean, there are so many factors that I could go into that, virtual is probably not the best situation for. So,
Yeah, and Coach Davis, what about yourself? Like, what are some of the difficulties you guys had to face just maneuvering through the season?
Um, so we weren't affected as much this year, maybe one or two games, but that first year, we're so used to being able to get in the gym whenever we want to develop our players. Anytime our players ask us, can they get in and work out? We don't have those restrictions that some of the public schools have. So we weren't really able to do that. We were having to, you know, keep everybody separated. And the girls, they were calling and saying, when can we get in? When can we get in? And just knowing that they were hungry to get in and be able to work. And they couldn't. We had to tell them no, that we can't do it yet. So it affected us in that way of being more prepared for the season, and being able to develop them their skill wise. Because like I said, it's something that we're used to. And then a couple of games we had to go into some games without our pieces. We went from being able to play maybe 30 games to maybe only playing 20, still a lot of games, but
Hmm.
just not what we were used to.
Absolutely. Now,
Mhm.
Coach Davis, I read that after winning your 1-5A state championship at Woodmont, that's when you decided to, leave the Wildcats and become a Lion. How did you know that Legacy was the place for you?
Well, actually, I have been following Legacy for maybe a couple of years, just kind of hearing about them. Of course, Principal Smith was coaching at that time, so I'm always asking questions and just asking about how the season was going and those things. And I realized that she was pretty much always kind of on the road, and just explaining to me the type of competition that they were seeing. So I wanted to. I would go and support. I'd go watch games. And I went to a game, and I just remember like that feeling, like, wow, this is an AAU type feel. It's fast paced. Just remember it being high level competition. And one of the main things I remember saying, like the college coaches that were in there. And I just know that in the public schools, it's a little harder to get the coaches to come because of the competition that they're playing against. You may have one or two players at your school that stands out, but if you're playing against not low level competition, it may be hard to get a college coach to come and see that. So I wanted to understand, and I wanted to know more, and I wanted in. So I had to find out.
Absolutely. And Miss Smith, I know before Coach came over, you were coaching the Lady Lions, just as she mentioned. When you decided to step aside, was Coach Davis your first and initial choice?
yes, first and only. To be quite honest, we both have been on the AAU circuit, and I've been heavily involved in just Greenville County my entire life, because that's I was educated through the Greenville County system, and then just being in the collegiate realm, I always watched her players, and her team and her AAU team. And so I knew, from being at Legacy that it was going to take someone, that has great relationships with players, who can develop players, and just really passionate about it, because basketball at Legacy is different. It's very different in a good way. So it takes someone really committed. The program there resembles coaching at a collegiate program. And so, because the resources are there, and I knew the type of person that really needed to be there. And so she eat, sleep, drink basketball. And we needed someone that kind of aligned to that, with that quality, to take over our program. So her and her team, her coaches. So yeah.
Obviously, you definitely made the correct choice. Coach Davis, I read also that you gave BJ, the coach of the men's team, a 3-year plan that kind of blew his mind away. What was that 3-year plan?
Well, I knew that like she said, the program was already successful. Principal Smith isn't really taking much credit for that, but she should. So it was already a successful program. They were on the rise. She was able to get girls scholarships into school. So I knew that I had some big shoes to fill. So I knew that Coach BJ and her as well were going to be looking for someone to take the program to another level. And that's what that was in my plan, is to be able to bring more young ladies to the program that wanted to play college ball. You may have had a few, and then some that, just like a normal team that just want to play for fun. But we wanted to be able to bring more players in that would want to play on that next level and come in and do the work. And like you said, it ran like a college program, similar to a college program. So we knew we had to get like-minded girls in just like that. So did that, and just told him that was the plan, and also mentioned that of course I wanted to help bring a national championship to the program. And I told him 3 years, and this is my 4th year, so I think I might have saved my job.
Well, we'll subtract that COVID year. That really wasn't a real season. So
that's right.
You were right on track with that 3-year program.
I'd take that.
Yeah. And to continue with kind of like your schedule, you guys play a national schedule. Like, for those that may not know exactly what that is by following the regular high schools, can you explain, how that schedule is different than your normal high school schedule?
Well, it's a lot more travel, obviously, traveling to more state to state, and the competition. I keep honing in on that. The competition level is different. You are night in and night out. You're playing against someone who is of equal talent, maybe, as you are. So that's one of the huge differences. And just having to be mentally tough. You're having to be mentally prepared, mentally tough. A lot goes into it. And like I said, we run it like a college program. We're scouting teams. I have my assistants. They're scouting the teams and letting me know about players and who I need to be aware of and who I need to go watch. And we bring that back to the girls and let them know that, this is what the plan is and the game plan. So we're trying to get them prepared and get them ready.
Absolutely.
To play at the next level.
Now, let's go to the championship game for you both. Clock is at 0. Everything is over. You're presented with being the champions of the national champions. What was that feeling like for you? We'll start with you, Coach.
It actually was a feeling of, it was mixed feelings, but definitely happiness, joy, a feeling of relief, like a weight lifted off the shoulders, just because I knew that was the goal. The goal was to win a national championship. And I wanted to do that not so much just for me, but for the girls, because they worked hard for it, but for the program. Because like I said, I don't know if Principal Smith mentioned anything, but like the program, I think her first year, they might not have won a game. So it was just one of those things where the national championship, bringing that to the program, is able to show how far that program has come. And a lot of talent has come through here, and they might not have had a national championship to show for it. So very grateful for the young ladies of the past who have come through and helped set the tone to make us get to where we are today, and to be able to accomplish that by winning the championship.
And Principal Smith, having been there from the beginning, and now that this championship is finally here, probably everything that you envisioned, what was that feeling like for yourself?
Oh man! So first, I was definitely happy for the coaches and the players to be able to experience that, because we've had a great model in Coach Jackson and his team. They've done it several times, and so because we're one family, we all with one win, we all win. But it was a different feeling in terms of like actually seeing the girls program do it. As Coach Davis was saying, before I got there, they'd never won a game. And so, I'm a Furman assistant, Division One, and I left and went to Legacy, where they weren't winning, and it just made me think about all the voices I heard before I went, of saying that, you're going over there, no one's gonna play there, you can't win there. It was all negative things and all the reasons of why not to go.
Right.
And it just put, morally, it just gives you a story of, when you really believe in something and go in and work hard, everybody's not going to see what you see, because the vision wasn't given to them. And when you feel strongly about something, you have to push through and press through to see it come to fruition. And then, I just thought about, I think I shared it with our whole school when we had kind of a pep rally for our team. And there's a verse that say, "Don't despise the days of small beginnings, because the Lord rejoices when the work begins." And so it's not always what it looks like. Am I right?
Come on.
And so,
Preach.
yeah, so it definitely was a moment that I had to go back and just pause and celebrate, but also just think about like, who knew 8 years ago? This is my 9th year, so who knew 9 years ago that we'd be celebrating a national championship with the Legacy girls, who 10 years ago had never won a game.
Man, that's a story that should be right.
Right.
Definitely goes down in the book. Somebody need to. Maybe I should write that story.
Go ahead.
We'll figure that out. And Coach Davis, back to yourself. So now that the season is over, I see you're right in it in the AAU scene with the Upward Stars. We hear a lot of horror stories in the AAU circuit. What is it like coaching there?
I don't have any horror stories. I mean, as far as it being particular to the circuit, but it's fun to me. It gives me a different type of excitement, because you're pretty much you're bringing probably girls together from your area, your community, maybe for the state, to go out and represent for the state and go out and compete against other teams from other areas. So that's just exciting to know that you're bringing so much talent together on one team and being able to go out and, like I said, represent for your state or for your team. So it's fun for me. And I have a young group this year, 15-year-olds that I'll be coaching. So I'm excited about that. I get to do a little more teaching, and we get to kind of get to know each other, build some chemistry, and it's an exciting time.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I've never been to an AAU game, believe it or not. So I'm definitely going to try to pull up on a lot of games this summer and see what it's about.
Yeah.
Especially the girls, because there's nothing like showing coverage and love to the women's basketball or sports in general. That's the main purpose of this company, to make sure that we provide coverage for women's sports. So
awesome.
We'll definitely be out there.
Okay. I'll tell you something that's really fun with it. AAU, and the fact of some of the teams that we play at Legacy. Because I've coached AAU, but I also worked with did kind of like some sports recruiting, like being like kind of a recruiter in South Carolina of identifying top talent. And so it's fun now, to look at some people that were 7th and 8th graders, and now I'm watching them play on TV. Also, from being at Legacy, when we watched Kentucky and USC, it was 2 players on that court that we actually played against in high school.
Wow.
They played for Hamilton Heights. And as a matter of fact, that was the first time Don Staley came to Legacy and we played Hamilton Heights. So to really look and see those players on the court, today one is going to defend for a national championship, and that's someone that you played against in high school. That tells you the caliber of talent that we're playing against.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, and for Legacy, kind of, you know, to circle off of that question, but on the men's perspective, how exciting is it to see like some of Coach BJ's players on the NBA level, like Nick, and now you got Bryce going to the draft?
right. Yeah, it's it's amazing, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it really
um,
is.
yeah, and one thing that I put out there, we get to be involved in the process a little bit, like from an academic standpoint. When Nick was going through the different teams that were considering him, they called me, they called Coach Jackson, they called our assistant principal, asking about their character. The same thing for McGowan's. We received a call maybe a month ago. And, I say that to say that for players that are listening and even parents, it's so important how you carry yourself.
Mm.
You never know in the 9th, 10th grade that you may potentially be an NBA prospect. And someone is going to be calling that teacher or that principal to ask about your character, your work ethic. And it could be helpful or detrimental to you. And those things still follow you. Fortunately and luckily, the ones that are there that they've called about, it's very easy to talk about them. But that is a piece of knowledge for parents and kids to know as well.
Yeah, that's news to me. I didn't know NBA teams went back to high school just to check on the character of a player. But
Absolutely, it's
I'm sure
happened
they
the last
probably
two
do that
times.
in the NFL as well. That's
I'm certain.
Yeah. So you players watching this interview today, uh, carry yourself accordingly in school because you
Hmm.
never, like the saying goes, you never know who's watching
Right.
and who's
Yeah.
listening. So that's excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up, Miss Smith. Last question for you both. And I've been around, I could say, Legacy for a few years now. You guys were definitely one of the schools that let me grow as a company. And every time I'm around, every time, it just feels like family. Like nothing is uncomfortable. It's just one big family atmosphere. Like, what is it like working with BJ and all the other members of the Legacy faculty? And I'll start with you, Coach.
It's like you said, it's like family. We support one another. We have each other's backs. We feed off of one another. We learn from each other. There's times where I'm in his practice. I'm watching his practice. I may have already had a long day, um, and my practice is over at 6, and his doesn't start till right at 6. And I'm staying there sometimes till 8, and I'm just watching what he's doing. I mean, obviously he's a national championship champion himself. So I want to, feed off of that and learn from him and learn from his coaching staff and see what he's doing. And the same, I mean, although he's the athletic director, but he'll come in and he'll watch what we're doing and give me some feedback. Let me know how things are going, and just letting me know that he's there, asking me what do we need, if we need anything. And he has a team of supporters and people that will probably back him up and make sure he's on top of his game, so he makes sure I'm on top of mine, and we're okay with critiquing one another and letting them know, like, hey, I saw in the game you did this, and tell me what your thoughts was at that time. And it's just, that's how you learn. You have to be able to have those conversations, and
Right.
um, you know maybe that's how champions are born.
That's right.
And Principal Smith, I'm actually going to switch the last question up for you.
Okay.
As kind of overseeing everything, how proud of you to now have a national champion on the men's and women's side?
Oh, it's outstanding. I tell everyone this is the winning season. Like you said, the guys are doing well, and I watched them work hard. Because when Coach Jackson came to Legacy, probably if he wasn't at Legacy, I would have never heard of Legacy or known about Legacy. Him being there kind of put it on my radar, and he's paved the way for so many, left the door open for so many. He is the reason why I'm at Legacy, and and to see what he's been able to do, and not just one time. more than one time. So that starts to be that, it's proven. He has like the recipe for success. Even the boys playing in the kind of on the circuit that they played on this year, being on ESPN. So he's really, really turned the program around and shown this area another level of excellence that is attainable for high school kids. So that's fun to watch. And then again, the girls, I did start it and get it to a certain point, but I knew the next level that it needed to go to was going to be fitting for Coach Davis and her staff to get it there, and to see that happen, and just the level of the quality of players that we have in, and the level of competition that we're able to compete with. It just shows you that some people are, like for me, I was a trailblazer to start it. And that's important. But sometimes you have to empower people to take things on, and bringing them on was the finishing piece of it. And so just to see it happen, and then to see the great things that are happening within our school, that spirit of excellence, that winning becomes contagious, and it creates a culture. And so I'm just happy to see that happening on and off the court.
Absolutely. And again, I wanted to thank both of you ladies because it is a Sunday for taking time out of your Sunday, spending it with me. I'm extremely proud of the success that your school is having, Principal Smith. Coach Davis, I wanted to personally congratulate you on becoming a national championship champion. That is absolutely amazing. And
Thank
it's
you.
great for the upstate. I do think people in Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson need to know what type of powerhouse we have sitting over here in Greenville, South Carolina at Legacy Early College.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody who tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in again. This was brought to you by the Carolina Law Group. Don't get in trouble when you have to call them, but if you do have to call them, reach out for your free consultation first at www.thecarolinalawgroup.com. Thank you guys again. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.